in my domain. Got the whole crowd screaming out our name. It's a blowout, it's a hurricane. It's over before you know it. While you shaking, we're a dynasty in the making. We're the royalty. Now we're breaking down the enemy. Move over for the soldiers. Take a swing, I can take a hit. If we die, it's fine. We live for this. It's all for this. We're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights. For the glory, for the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory, we do it for the glory.
The final regular season race of Season 4 of the NNSCRA Pizza Hut X Series is ready to go green here at the M&Ms Super Speedway. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Seth Cole. It is now time to determine the 12 drivers that will battle for this season's chase for the championship for the Pizza Hut X Series. And we definitely have a very interesting scenario coming into this race. Matter of fact, we've got about 5 different interesting scenarios coming into this race that we're going to have to try and keep track of while all these drivers battle for 34 laps to see who will go to victory lane at this very interesting super speedway. Coming into this race, we already have a couple of drivers that have locked themselves up spots in the playoffs regardless of where they finish here today. Those drivers would include Scott Roush, being a 2-time winner this season, and then 6 other drivers at this point are officially locked into the playoffs. They include Jordan Lopez, Chris Dollerton, Matt McIntire, Joshua Osborne, and Seth Cole. A question mark driver is our Daytona winner, Ying Canario. But here's where the big battle takes place, alright? We've got about 8 drivers that are in the hunt for the final 4 spots in the playoffs. And this is potentially the final 4. It could potentially be the final 5 because N Hudson is another scenario that I'll get to in just a minute. But right now, the 8 drivers that we will probably be focusing on the most here today, the 8 drivers, the 4 drivers right now that hold the final 4 slots are Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, Dougie Shears, and Aubrey Eselstein. The 4 drivers right now that do not have one of the final 4 spots that are right behind them are Charles Jackson, Justin Tucker, Mark Davidson, and Diego Yepez. Those 8 drivers are 21st through 28th in the point stands, and they are only separated by 32 points. That is the big zone here today that we will be keeping tabs on of who's going to make it in and who is not. Now, I said that they're battling for the final 4 playoff spots. It could be the final 5 playoff spots, all dependent on one driver, and that's N Hudson. He comes into this race in the top 30 in the point standings right now. He is 9 points ahead of 31st in the standings. So if he can at least get a decent outing, he will make it into the playoffs. And it will be only 4 spots up for grabs between those 8 drivers that I just mentioned. But if N Hudson falls out of the top 30 in points, he won't make the playoffs. And that makes it 5 spots up for grabs for those 8 drivers. So it's going to be crazy here today. And hopefully I don't make any mistakes mathematically, but probably I will. Let's get that command.
Drivers, start your engines!
Very rarely in a race where there's so many scenarios like this do I get it correct on who makes it into the playoffs and who doesn't. Usually I have to say adhere to the final point standings because more than likely I'm going to make a mistake somewhere down the line. Quentin Moore, Charles Jackson, that's your front row for this race. Let's give you your top 10 for the final time this season, presented by Golden Corral. Quentin Moore on pole, and he's your points leader as well. So he would love to get a win because a win would lock himself up a spot in the playoffs. You got Jordan Lopez. He's second in points. Chris Dollerton in third. Steve Morgan fourth. J Jefferson fifth. Angel Navarro in sixth. Matt McIntire seventh. Eighth, Joshua Osborne. Ninth, Chloe Ericsson. And 10th, Phil Parker. I should also throw another log on the fire of controversy here as well, because if drivers like Quentin Moore, Morgan, Jefferson, Navarro, Ericsson, Parker, Gray, Baranskis, Langeland, Ryan George, Garrett Sinner, Daniel Olson, or Eli Bright go to victory lane, they're automatically locked into the playoffs. So it is really going to be a crazy race here today, and a lot of scenarios coming into this one. Like I said, the only drivers right now that are locked in are Roush, Lopes, Dollerton, McIntire, Osborne, and Seth Cole. I should also say, too, we've only run M&M Super Speedway 2 out of our 3 seasons, Season 1 and Season 3, and in both of those races, the winner of that event took part in the playoffs. Could that mean that our winner here today will take part in the playoffs as well? Back in Season 1, it was James Qualls taking the checkered flag, and last season it was Austin LaPlante taking the checkers. We didn't run the regular season finale for the Pizza Hut X Series back in Season 2 here at M&M's. It was actually at Kentucky. Colby Jackson was the winner of that event. Green flags in the air, though. We're underway at Pizza Hut X Series final regular season race at M&M's. Here we go. Everybody spacing out. Quentin Moore having a great season. He's leading the point standings. But if he doesn't get a victory, doesn't matter how consistent a year it's been, he will not be representing in the playoffs. Another driver that I should make mention of as well, another scenario that I didn't talk about, is we got a battle for the lead. J Jefferson, 4 wide, is going to take the top spot. That's one of those drivers with a win. He'd lock himself a spot in the playoffs. But another driver, if he can get his second win today, that could potentially make it into the playoffs would be J Shelly, because Shelly comes into this race 32nd in points, 12 points out of the top 30 in the standings. A second win and getting into the top 30 in points would clinch the 71 a spot in the chase for the championship. And the caution is out for the first time today, which means we could very well have some playoff hopes coming to an end here at the completion of lap number 1. Let's see who they are. That's the 0 of Alex Gray. He was a driver with a win that could lock himself up a playoff position. Is that, I can't tell who that is. Is that Canario? I don't think it is. Is that Hudson? That is Hudson. Oh my goodness. Well, oh, and he's out of the race. Nathan Hudson, his playoff hopes are over. Wow. Nathan Hudson had to stay in the top 30 in points for his 2 wins to count towards a playoff spot, and he is one of the first drivers out of the race here at M&M's. I don't know if the leaders will come to pit road here under this caution or not. Looks like they will. So as they do that, let's go take a look at what happened. Looks like we had an incident out of turn 4. Looks like that inside pit wall definitely came into play as well. Okay, let's see what happens here. Just coming off turn 4, about to complete the first lap. Oh, there might be some contact right here between Steve Morgan and Cole Deaver. Although Deaver didn't really make a whole lot of contact. It was Steve Morgan turning the 11. And hard into the inside wall. 0 got turned as well, Alex Gray, by somebody else. And the flagman got a good view of that, throwing the red flag out there, indicating a closed pit road. And just like that, 3 drivers right there, their playoff hopes are dashed. Hudson will undoubtedly fall out of the top 30 in points. Alex Gray and Steve Morgan were drivers that with a win here today, they would get an automatic ticket into the playoffs, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen for either one of them. Let's real quickly jump back and see how Alex Gray even became a part of the wreck. Looks like he got turned by Phil Parker in the 5. Almost kind of the same scenario that happened between Hudson and Morgan, except in this case, Phil Parker, after hooking Alex Gray, is able to get off of him and continue on. Gray gets sent down into the wreck that's already happened between Steve Morgan and Nathan Hudson. Hard lick into that inside wall. That is not a safer barrier here either. And drivers say is one of the hardest licks you can take at this racetrack. So playoff hopes dashed already for Hudson, Gray, and Morgan. Question is, who's next? Let's go back for the green flag. Green flag will come back out here on lap 6 of 34, so still a long ways to go in this one. Everybody came to pit road under that caution. So J Jefferson came down the race leader. He left the race leader. He's got M McIntire, Chris Dollerton lined up behind him. J Merrick Jr. in 4th, 5th for K Deaver. J Shelly's in 6th. 7th place is M Davidson. 8th, B Braley. 9th place right now would be, I just drew a blank. Eli Bright, thank you. I had to see the car. And Jessica Miles is in 10th. 2 drivers are out of the race after the wreck. The cars of Steve Morgan and N Hudson. And at the tail end of the field is the 0 of Alex Gray, although he got quite a bit of damage, so I don't think he's going to be much of a factor. Despite being able to continue, I don't think he's going to be able to get up here to the front to contend for a spot in the playoffs. So, what about our 8 drivers that are competing for that final few spots in the playoffs? Let's see where they are all restarting. You got M Davidson restarting in 7th. Charles Jackson in 15th. Diego Yepez in 16th. I go a little further down. Aubrey Eisestein in 22nd. Cody Lamas in 25th. Has 3 flags back in the air. Justin Tucker restarts 37th, and Carson Gum in 39th. Those are those 8 drivers that are battling for those final playoff spots. Oh, I missed one. Dougie Shears. He's restarting 32nd. But with the departure out of the race of N Hudson, it's now 5 spots up for grabs for those 8 drivers rather than 4. It could go back to 4, though, if J Shelly there in that 71 is able to get his 2nd win of the season. Battle for the lead, side by side. M McIntire having a career year. 7th in the point standings, a win this year. 4 top 5s, 5 top 10s, a sure end driver to get into the playoffs. And he'll lead that lap. Here comes J Jefferson. Here comes James Shelly. Shelly, a former driver in the playoffs back in, I think it was season 2. When he went to victory lane a total of 2 times, including 1 time during the playoffs at Indianapolis. It was his win at Kansas earlier that year when he went coast to coast that got him into the playoffs. Slotted in the 2nd position as J Jefferson continues to lead. Jefferson hasn't been to victory lane since Talladega last year when he got pushed to the win by then teammate Benny Watson. And obviously Jefferson having a great season, 5th in the point standings, but you gotta have a win to get into the playoffs with the system we've got. And Jefferson, I think, realizes that. McIntire back to the bottom of the track looking for the race lead. There's Eli Bright in the 12. Eli Bright is one of those drivers. He's 20th in points, and if he goes to victory lane here, he'd be in the playoffs. Basically anybody that comes into this race without a win ahead of those 8 drivers that I mentioned that are battling for those final 4 playoff spots, then a win for them automatically locks them into the playoffs, and Eli Bright fits that criteria. There's K Deaver, a former playoff contender from last season or season 2? Season 2. Now Deaver comes into this race currently in 41st in points, so he's just trying to get a win. I don't think there's any way he'll be able to contend for a playoff spot. Same for the driver down the inside there, that 16 of Jake Rogers. He comes into this race 40th in points. As As Eli Bright to the lead. He got around J Jefferson for the spot. It's kind of ironic that 16 has been in the playoffs for the past 2 seasons, but it will not be this year. Back in Season 2 was the aforementioned J Shelly, and last year was that car that actually went to victory lane in this event with Austin LaPlante behind the wheel. Jefferson's got a strong car here, and here's another driver I just noticed. 55 of Charles Jackson. Now he is one of those 8 drivers that's battling for those final playoff positions. And right now he's in the 3rd spot, about to move Jake Rogers out of the way. That'd be for 2nd. So Charles Jackson, realizing the urgency of the situation, he was in the playoffs last year in the Tax Slayer Truck Series, trying to make the playoffs here now in the Pizza Hut X Series. Behind them, 4th place running right now, Jordan Lopez in the 34. Lopez, one of 2 drivers from Kev Shear Racing Tech that are locked into the playoffs. And it could be all 3 of the Kev Shear Racing Tech machines that could get into the playoffs if their 3rd entry, Ryan George, goes victory lane. We got some cars that are down in the grass back there. Dougie Shears was one of them. I couldn't tell who the other one was. And I saw Ryan George back there just inside the top 10, that 4 car. He comes into this race 15th in points, so if he goes to victory lane, Ryan George would pull a shot clock cheese and get into the playoff positions. Good battle here for the lead between Jefferson and Jackson. Here come a couple more contenders on that inside line. There you see Charles Jackson sees them coming. He's going to move down and try and block them. Phil Parker there in the 5. That's a driver with a win that would make it into the playoffs. Chloe Ericsson, same scenario as well. I think we might be under caution. We are. But going back to Ericsson, Ericsson's 9th in points. If she wins, she's in the playoffs. And we had a spin on the back straightaway. Maybe that's why drivers were going through the grass. Maybe they were avoiding a wreck. Canario was involved. And this is big, because Canario came into this race with a question mark on whether he was locked into the playoffs or not. He was roughly 11 points ahead of that 8-car battle for those final 4 spots. And now it looks like he will not be finishing out this race. And we only had 2 drivers that were out of the race prior to this. So Canario, our Daytona winner, his playoff hopes could be in jeopardy. William Brock was also involved in the wreck. Oh, and Daniel Olson, another driver who, if he won, he'd be locked into the playoffs. Looks like that will not come to fruition here today. Matt McIntyre's way back here. I think he may have gotten involved in the wreck. He's got some damage, as does one of our winners from Bristol Dirt, Justin Tucker, another win and you're in driver who was involved in that 8-driver battle for a playoff spot. And we got some drivers hitting pit road, including Jake Rogers, giving up 6th place. Diego Yepez, Carson Gum, looked like Ashlyn Boyd back there is also coming to pit road. So some pit and some stay out. J Jefferson will stay the leader, though, as we're under caution for the 2nd time here today at M&Ms. Some close quarter race between a few former winners from this season. Chris Dollerton, Joshua Osborne, Canario, Mark Davidson there. And I think the contact's going to start between the 70 and the 6. Yep. Looks like Osborne got real tight on the bottom. Gets into Canario. They go up the track. And then right there, Canario gets hooked off the left front of Matt McIntyre, and nowhere for the 32 of Daniel Olson to go. There's William Brock completely boxed in. You can see everybody diving down to the grass. So yeah, that's why people were down in the grass area. They were avoiding the wreck. Ashlyn Boyd may have gotten a piece of that. There's Brock getting involved again. Left side of your screen. He gets hit from Justin Tucker. And Brock goes up and into the air, and does he come back down on his wheels? No, he does not. Up and over goes the 62. Whoa, and then he kind of flips the 19 up back in the air. Good grief. Preston Plord had a wild flip in yesterday's Tax Slayer Truck Series race, and here today it's William Brock going for a wild barrel roll down the back straightaway through the grass here at M&Ms. Brock came into this race down in the 38th position in points, so his playoff hopes were slim to none. Oh, wow, and then right down in front of Daniel Olson. So Olson gets involved twice. But Olson, Canario, their playoff hopes potentially dashed, at least potential for the 6th. The 32 will definitely not make the playoffs now. And M McIntire, I mean, this is not the kind of run he wants heading into the playoffs, but at least he's locked in, so he knows that he can afford a poor run like this. But I'm kind of questioning the 19 of Justin Tucker there, the damage he sustained, and then also about where Yin Canario's positioning is in the point standings. Is it enough to get him into the playoffs, depending on what happens for the rest of this race? And one shout out I want to give, too, a great job of avoiding was the 48 of Cody Lamas, keeping his potential playoff hopes alive as he kind of split through the middle past the flipping William Brock machine. Not even to the halfway point, and we are already working our second caution of the day, but the cautions are certainly playing a factor into who is going to make the playoffs and who is not. We got more drivers out of the race, including Justin Tucker. He finishes 37th, so his playoff hopes are done. Daniel Olson's also over in 38th. William Brock finishes 39th, and are the playoff hopes for Yin Canario over? We're going to have to wait and see as he retires out of the race in the 40th position. Drivers he's going to have to worry about now would include the likes of Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, D Shears, A Eisestein, Charles Jackson, who's restarting in second place, as well as Mark Davidson and potentially also Diego Yepez. He has about an 11-point gap between himself and Carson Gum, about a 43-point gap between himself and Diego Yepez. And the most you can gain in a race is 47 points. So J Jefferson will restart as the leader as a number of drivers decide to stay out, but some drivers hit pit roads. The top 10 looks a little bit different, with Charles Jackson lined up second, Jordan Lopez third. Fourth place is Mason Wood. Fifth place, Phil Parker. That's Chloe Ericsson, Kyle Langeland, Eli Bright, Seth Cole, and James Shelly. That is your top 10. The first driver to hit pit road was Jake Rogers. He will restart back in the 32nd position. Only he, Carson Gum, Ashlyn Boyd, Anna Baranaskas, and M McIntire came to pit road under that caution, so we'll have to see if this thing goes into a long green flag run, if that benefits those few drivers. And the battle that we had come into the caution, as soon as we go back green, it's back on. Charles Jackson to the inside of J Jefferson. He's going to get some help there from the 18 of Mason Wood. And of course, the departure of Justin Tucker was kind of a good sign for those drivers that are battling for those final spots, because now it's only 7 drivers that are battling for the final 5 spots in the playoffs. Before, it was 8 drivers battling for 4 spots, but after the departure of Nathan Hudson, that's now opened up the door for another playoff opportunity for a driver. Jackson got the lead from Jefferson, but he won't lead the lap. Jefferson right back to the inside before the start-finish line. And Jefferson's been doing a good job keeping his car out in front. Not only keeping his car out in front, but he's getting some good bonus points as well, potentially for leading the most laps in this race. Talked about Jackson, another driver having a good run here, taking advantage of the departures of both Tucker and Hudson, and that's the 29 rather, of Mark Davidson. There he is, along with his teammate there, Joshua Hyatt. So Davidson looking like he's in a good spot to be able to get into the playoffs with where he's currently running. Looking further back, seeing if we got any other drivers that are in that 7-driver cluster that are making their way to the front. I'm seeing A Eisestein, D Shears, a couple of Michael Motorsport Chevys coming to the front, as well as 48 of Cody Lamas at the tail end of this lead pack, so we may not have heard the last of them. James Shelly with Kyle Langeland in tow, a Chevy and a Dodge, working against a Chevy and a Toyota, and Shelly just lost his drafting help though. Langland's going to go up the middle, so that's going to help Jefferson, at least for the moment, continue to hold on to the top position. Battle will be for second. Chloe Ericsson, former competitor for the championship last season, needs a win to battle for the championship this season. That's all she needs, just a trip to victory lane, and she would be locked into the playoffs. Joshua Hyatt, who was in the playoffs last season for the Tax Slayer Truck Series, not going to make the playoffs this year for the Pizza Hut Series, but still trying to get his first win of the season, as Langeland did a nice job there up the middle to get the second spot from J Shelly, and now he's going to step out of line and try and take the lead from J Jefferson. Langeland's one of those drivers, 13th in points, and if he wins, he's locked into the playoffs. It's been kind of a bit of a silent surprise. Oh, trouble in the back! Couple of cars around. One of them looked like Mason Wood, the other one looked like Ryan George. As they drag race to the line, it will be Langeland who will lead us under our third caution of the day. Another incident out of turn number 4. The two drivers I thought I saw, I know for certain I saw Ryan George. I think the other car was the 18 of Mason Wood. And they were both headed down for that inside retaining wall as well. Let's see if they hit anything. Christian Merrick Jr. is on pit road. J Jefferson's on pit road as well as Quentin Moore. That may be regularly scheduled stops for them, but Charles Jackson's got a lot of damage. Oh my gosh, the whole front end of that car is gone. And that's one of those drivers that was battling for a playoff spot. That may be his playoff hopes done. There's Ryan George. Don't see much damage on his car. There's the 18 of Mason Wood. He's got a lot of damage on the left side of his machine. I'll bet he might have probably been the one that got clobbered by Charles Jackson. Cole Deaver also with a lot of extensive damage on his Chevrolet. So the caution is out again. It looked like just when that caution came out, Jefferson and Merrick Jr. and Quentin Moore dove to pit road. So they may end up moving up to the front of the field depending on who comes to pit road under this caution. Just about everybody with the exception of Aubrey Eisestein, Mark Davidson, Jessica Miles, Chris Dollerton, Chelsea Bowles. They're all staying out. So, as we're under the caution for the third time here today, there might have been some contact back there between Seth Cole and Chloe Ericsson. We'll have to follow up on that. As we're under caution for the third time today, let's take a look and see what happened. Alright, let's see what happens here. Coming off turn 4. Watch the bottom line there. That's Cole Deaver in the 15. I think he might move up the track into Jackson. Also spins around the 4 of Ryan George. Now, where does the heavy-duty contact come in? Okay, right there, Cole Deaver gets into Ryan George pretty good. But what happens with the 55? Is he going to hit the pit wall? Gets back into the throttle, and that's exactly what happens. Runs straight into the pit road wall. Wow. Now, I'm a little curious about Jefferson, Merrick Jr., and Quentin Moore. Did they get forced down pit road, or was this regularly scheduled stops by these three? Let's look. Oh, yeah. Oh, Jefferson was out in front. He was the race leader. This was a regularly scheduled stop for him. I don't know about Christian Merrick Jr. and Quentin Moore. They were back behind the wreck. Let's see if they were committed to come to pit road, or did they make an audible here with this wreck ahead of them. Merrick Jr. goes low to avoid. Keeps going low to avoid. And I think whether he wanted to come to pit road or not, he didn't have much choice. And I think Quentin Moore was already committed to coming to pit road. So I think at least two of the drivers there is, boy, that is a hard hit for Charles Jackson. But I think that both Jefferson and Quentin Moore, they were fully committed. They were coming to pit road no matter what. I think Christian Merrick Jr. kind of was kind of coaxed into the idea to avoid the spinning 55 of Charles Jackson, but it's still continuing to take shape here on who's going to get those final playoff spots as we are under caution for the third time here today at M&Ms. And those pit stops really played a huge factor into where Jefferson, Christian Merrick Jr., and Quentin Moore are restarting. First, second, and third as everybody else came to pit road. One car did actually, or a few cars actually stayed out, including Aubrey Eisestein and others, but they came to pit road on the following lap, thus giving the lead over to the 05. Jefferson's had one of the strongest cars of the day, been out in front for most of this race. Back from 4th place on back, it's going to be Joshua Hyatt in 4th place, Kyle Langeland in 5th, Seth Cole is 6th, Zach Flickinger now up in 7th with Carson Gum in 8th, Andre Baranowskis rather, is in 9th, and 10th place would be Dougie Shears. Now out of the race is only one car, and that is Charles Jackson. So I think we can safely say now that neither Jackson nor Tucker, former winners this season, will make it into the playoffs. So now it comes down between Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, Dougie Shears, A Eisestein, Mark Davidson, and Diego Yepez. Let's see where those drivers are all restarting. Looks like Shears is the highest starter of them in 10th. Lamas restarts in 12th. As the green flag's about to come out, Yepez restarts 21st. Eisestein in 28th. Davidson in 31st. And who is the driver I'm missing? Carson Gum. Where is he restarting? He restarted in 8th. So as things stand right now, I think that Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, Dougie Shears, and possibly Mark Davidson? No, not Mark Davidson, sorry, Diego Yepez would have the final 4 spots. But keep in mind, it's the final 5 spots because of Nathan Hudson being out of the race. And here comes Carson Gum. If I had just waited about a half a lap to ask where he was, I'd have gotten a pretty good idea. He is out in front now. And here comes his teammate Seth Cole in the 66. Joshua Osborne there in the 70. There's one driver we haven't seen up here towards the front. Where is he? Where did he restart? 31st. That's James Qualls, former winner at this track. I didn't see him get involved in any wrecks, and he hasn't been up at the front at all. Is that car damaged or something? Where's he at? Oh, there he is. Oh, yeah, he's got damage. Yep, a lot of front-end damage on his car. And there's Chloe Ericsson. Remember, I thought I saw contact between the 66 of Seth Cole and the 46 of Chloe Ericsson on pit road. There's the result. Chloe Ericsson's playoff hopes end with a buckle on the hood of her NOS Ford Mustang. There's Shears. His playoff hopes currently still alive. Same can be said currently for Diego Yepez there in the 21. You see him on that inside line, making his way towards the front. And the same for Cody Lamas, who is now up trying to crack the top 5 there in that 48, as Joshua Osborne is now out in front leading this race. Osborne winning the road course of Watkins Glen a few weeks ago, now trying to win at a super speedway. Ben Braley there in the 02. At least 29th in points, but I don't think he's going to make it into the playoffs even with a win. Oh, I couldn't tell if they were coming to pit road there. They all take such a low exit out of turn 4. It looks like they're diving for pit road, but what they're really doing is going down to the bottom of the track to block anybody making a move on them before they get to turn 1. As the battle for the lead is on again, it'll be Ben Braley with the top position. And I do believe the only hope right now that Cirgley Motorsports has of having an entry in the playoffs now would be that 21 of Diego Yepez. Ben Braley's too far down in the points. Eli Bright is kind of faded back. If he could get up here and win, he would have a shot. And Diego Yepez, of course, has that victory. So he's really the only shot right now that they have. Cody in 4th. Here comes Langeland in the 5th position. We still got some drivers up here in this lead pack that if they go to victory lane for the first time this season, they're automatically locked into the playoffs. Langeland is there. I saw Phil Parker, A Navarro there in the 97. Don't count out J Jefferson, that 05. He was out in front a good portion of this race. He might try and get back to the front, as that's exactly what Joshua Osborne's going to do, get back to the front, as he will get by Ben Braley for the spot. Laps are winding down as well. Keep tabs on the top center of your screen there. When we hit the line, there's 6 laps to go in this race. So you think that they've been aggressive this entire race? You ain't seen nothing yet. There's a playoff spot on the line for a number of these drivers. Wide, that is for 5th. Settles back out to double wide as Langeland fighting his way to the front. Joshua Hyatt takes a turn out in front, but for how long? Here comes Cody Lamas in the 48. Here comes Langeland. Look at Jake Rogers. Will he look 4 wide here into 3? He will, and it will be 4 wide for 2nd, maybe 3 wide for the lead. Nope, double wide instead. And here comes Jefferson again. Jake Rogers to the front. Here comes the points leader, Quentin Moore. He needs a win to get into the playoffs, and he's the points leader. Rogers will lead that lap. 5 laps to go here at M&Ms. Can we finish it under green? Flickinger now for 2nd place on J Jefferson. Flickinger too far down in the point stage. He's 35th in points. There's no way that even with a win he could battle for a playoff spot, but he wants to get a victory nonetheless. Here come a couple of drivers that are locked into the playoffs already. Roush in the 38, Lopez, his teammate, in the 34, Dollerton in the 1. They want to start off the playoffs with as many wins as possible as they catch a slower car. That's the 12 of Eli Bright. And he's going to play havoc here with some of these lead drivers. He's going to break up the field a little bit. And we got trouble! Diego Yepez around! The caution is out! We may end this race under yellow. This race may end under yellow. The slower car of Eli Bright, I think, triggered that wreck. Yepez was the one that went around. And for the 4th time today, the caution is out. The caution comes out with 4 laps to go. Now, we may get a 1-lap shootout, but to be perfectly honest, I'm not that hopeful. The race could potentially be ending under caution, and if it does, and if the leaders are good to go on fuel, Jake Rogers would be picking up his first Pizza Hut X Series victory here at M&Ms. This is almost falling into the same way that it was for our Tax Slayer Truck Series race, in which we saw a driver at the time, Zach Winkle, who was 39th in points, go to victory lane. Well, Jake Rogers comes into this race, currently 40th in points. So the super speedway adage, it caters to the driver struggling in points, the underdog, certainly seems to be coming true here this weekend. Anna Baranaskas is on pit road. She was involved. I know the 21 of Diego Yepez was involved. He's got a lot of damage there. Cody Lamas fell back after that wreck. So that's not good for him. Got a couple of drivers hitting pit road. That's the 25 of Jessica Miles, the 24 of Garrett Sydnor. And as they hit the line with 3 to go, I don't think we're going to get the 1 to go signal next time by. I'll be very shocked if we do. I think this race is going to end under yellow. But for now, let's see what brought out potentially the final caution of the day here at M&Ms. And who would have thought Diego Yepez's playoff hopes are going to be ended potentially by a teammate? Well, actually, I'm not sure I could put much blame on Eli Bright. Yepez came up the track and just completely crowded Joshua Hyatt. There's Garrett Sydnor getting involved. And somewhere back in all that smoke is Cody Lamas having to slow up. Wow, Sydnor pounded the outside safer barrier pretty good. Ben Braley got a little piece of it too. And then right there is where Jessica Miles is going to get into it. And further back here, I don't know if you saw it, but the 2 of Anna Baranaskas shot down towards the inside wall. And I think she pounded it. Oh, along with a couple of others, J Shelly and Ashlyn Boyd. Right here, she's going to sweep them up with her. So there goes Shelly's playoff hopes as well. Oh, wow. Shelly's car up and in the air, and actually the rear decklet of the car was up riding the wall for a brief moment. Boy, I'm looking at the grid right now. I can't tell you out of those drivers that were competing for those final spots who those drivers are going to be at this point in time. I think we're going to have to wait for the finishing results, but looks like Jake Rogers could very well be en route to his first win of the season. The leaders crossed the line, the white flag was displayed, and you can see the lights are still on atop the Chevy Corvette pace car, which means this race will end under yellow. For the third straight season, the 16 car will go to victory lane at least once, and Jake Rogers, for the first time in his career, will go to victory lane in the Pizza Hut X Series. 40th in the point standings, doesn't matter. He's going to have a crooked number in the win column here in Season 4. He's going to beat out J Jefferson, A Navarro, Quentin Moore, 3 drivers that if they had taken the checkered flag, they would be in the playoffs this season. And the big question is, what about those final playoff positions now? Jake Rogers' win will not affect any of those drivers in terms of a new driver winning and getting into the playoffs. Rogers' win will not get him into the playoffs, being so far down in the standings. So we already know that Charles Jackson and Justin Tucker are out of the playoff spots. It's now down to Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, Dougie Shears, Aubrey Eisestein, Mark Davidson, and then potentially Diego Yepez, who got involved in that last wreck. We'll find out between those 6 who's going to get potentially the final 5 playoff positions in this race. Of course, it's not 100% certain that Nathan Hudson fell out of the top 30 in points. A lot of drivers around him struggled today. As Jake Rogers will take the checkered flag, it is now official. He is the winner of today's race at M&Ms. Going back to my point of drivers struggling here that were around Nathan Hudson, Jessica Miles, James Shelly, Ashlyn Boyd. I don't know if any of them actually did pass Nathan Hudson in the point standings. Miles finished out of the race, and Shelly finished out of the race. Shelly and Boyd both got involved in that last caution, so it's going to be close whether Hudson makes it or not. So the standings are official. So let's find out about those 6 remaining drivers: Gum, Lamas, Shears, Eisestein, Davidson, and Yepez. Where did they all officially finish? Highest of those was Eisestein in 10th, so Aubrey Eisestein will be in the playoffs. Mark Davidson was 11th, so I think he made it in the playoffs. Carson Gum was 13th, so I think he's good. Dougie Shears was 18th, and he finished 3 spots ahead of Cody Lamas, but Lamas was ahead of Shears in the points. So it's going to be close, I think, between Shears and Yepez, who's going to be in that final spot. That's only if Nathan Hudson did not fall, or did fall out of the top 30 in the point standings, but he finished in dead last. Jessica Miles finished 11 spots ahead of him, and she was 9 points behind him in the point standings, so that right there says that Miles passed Hudson in the points, and Jessica Miles displaces Nathan Hudson from the top 30. So if I am correct, which I may not be, but if I am correct, I believe your 12 drivers to battle for the championship this season will be as follows: Scott Roush, Jordan Lopez, Chris Dollerton, Matt McIntyre, Joshua Osborne, Seth Cole, Yin Canario, Carson Gum, Cody Lamas, Aubrey Eisestein, and I believe the final spot is going to go to, well, hold on, let me do some calculations here. The gap between Dougie Shears and Mark Davidson, what was it? Shears was 92, Davidson was 101, so 9-point separation. How far were they separated in the results? Davidson finished 7 spots ahead of Shears. I think Shears is just barely going to edge out Davidson for the final playoff position. I'm not certain, but I think that could very well be the case. I think, well, actually, no. I think Shears will be in. Oh, wait, hold on. Let me do this again. Let me go through the running order again. So it's going to be Roush, Lopez, Dollerton, McIntyre, Osborne, Cole, Canario, Gum, Lamas, Shears, Eisestein, and Davidson, I believe. Yes. Okay, so I think Davidson has made it as well. So the 3 that did not make it, that had a shot, are Jackson, Tucker, and Yepez. And, of course, Nathan Hudson as well, dropping out of the top 30. So I think that's the top 12 that'll battle for the championship. But you'll find out when we see the results here afterwards, but that's just what I think with mathematically calculating in my head, which is not the most reliable source. But Jake Rogers, what a great run for the rookie. He's going to get the win here today. Hope you guys enjoyed today's race from M&Ms. If you did enjoy it, be sure to give us a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. Here are your finishing results, and now we will show you your rookie point standings, your overall point standings, and for the first time, your new formatted playoff points. 12 drivers will be battling for the championship. 16 drivers will battle for the championship, though, after tomorrow's Hershey's Cup Series race. We capped off M&Ms with the Hershey's Cup Series regular season finale. You're not going to want to miss it. Till then, though, I've been Seth Cole. You've been watching production of the NCAA Offline Racing Best. The Pizza Hut X Series chase for the championship begins.